So good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's masterclass. This is what we call Mission Monday. And Mission Monday is really how do we dig deep into some practical things that will enable us to really win. This is session 3 of 5 of the Win at Work series. And I've been talking on topics that will
Marian Yate has joined the meeting.
as the name suggests, help us to win at work. So I really, really hope that you've come with lots of enthusiasm to learn some practical skills. I really believe that, God wants us to elevate. Many of you who've been part of my mentoring and coaching groups or networks know that this year, my key theme has been prepare for prominence. I really believe that God is really trying to prepare many of us to move to the next level in our professional and personal lives. And in order to do that, we've got to be prepared. And a lot of us are doing things that are not enabling us to elevate. I have been coaching women for several years, and many of the women that I've been coaching are women who have been passed over for promotion, haven't been able to move to the next level in their career or in their personal life. Sometimes I work with companies, and companies tell me that, look, we've got someone who has really good talent or really good technical ability, but unfortunately,
iPhone has joined the meeting.
We can't do much with them because they have, bad attitudes or, poor skills that enable them to not qualify for promotion. So for me, a big piece of why I'm doing this series is to help people identify the gaps in their behaviors that may be preventing them from moving forward or getting the promotion or getting the job. And then for those of us who may not have been coached before or not have understood that there's a way we need to show up at work, this could be life transforming knowledge. I know the difference that this knowledge made for me when I learned it several years ago. And that's why I'm passionate about teaching it through Mission Monday. I can only do, the headlines in these sessions because it's such a rich topic. But today I really want to focus on professionalism. We talked about the mindset towards work. We talked about some of the other skills and how to build, rapport and cordiality. And today I just really want to do a deep dive into professionalism. What is it and how do we develop it? What are the things that we should be mindful of? And as a Christian and as a believer, I really believe that so many of us sometimes are over spiritual and impractical. So whether it's through my radio show, Empowered Living, or through free master classes like these, I really like to marry both the spiritual and the practical because some of us just aren't winning because we think every problem that we're facing is spiritually rooted, whereas, it might be just a lack of information and a lack of proper skills. The Bible says that it is for a lack of knowledge that people perish. So usually when you have a problem, in addition to praying about it, you want to seek the knowledge that you might lack in order to fulfill, the issues that you might be facing. So for those of you who aren't aware, I just wanted to talk a little bit.
Rosie has joined the meeting.
My background, I certified at the Protocol School of Washington in 2013. I've been, hired by different consulting companies or companies in general to work with people to help them acquire the polish of a world-class professional. And it's from that lens that I want to talk to you today. Some of us have good technical ability, but we can't elevate because we haven't added the graces of professionalism that really helps us to stand apart. I have a leadership curriculum that I developed in 2014 called the Stand Out Leadership Program. And with that, I look at all of the elements that help you to build upon your technical ability to really stand out in your career. And one of the courses from that is called Outclass the Competition. So I'm borrowing from that course that I teach to share in tonight's masterclass. So I hope you you'll have all the attention.
iPhone has joined the meeting.
And I hope
Marion has joined the meeting.
if you have questions as well, you can put your questions in the chat box and we'll get to the questions towards the end. And I hope that you come with
Jan's iPhone has left the
open
meeting.
heart so that we can really, really get into this. So I wanted to step back first and just really help you to understand that we are always on stage. If you have a career, if you have a personal life, if you have a social media channel, however it is you are living out your purpose, we are being observed and therefore we are being judged. And when it comes to the professional world, a lot of us don't think about that enough. You think that if I put my head down and just do my work, then I will get all of the advancement that I need.
Josephine Cusano has joined the meeting.
It isn't always that way. Sometimes when you are experiencing stagnation in your career, and this is the number one thing.
Gabriel Aka has joined the meeting. Jenna has joined the meeting.
This is the number one thing that people tell me. I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling as if I'm underappreciated. I feel that in my work, I'm underestimated. I'm not getting the opportunities that I really believe God for. I know what that is like because I used to tithe on the income that I wanted. So if I was believing God for a promotion, I would tithe on the salary level that I wanted. And I would do things like sow a seed. I would do a first fruit offering if I was offering something in my business and I got paid. And so I knew how to do the spiritual stuff, but I didn't add the knowledge of the practical. And that's what I really, really want to emphasize, that these two things need to walk hand in hand. The Bible talks about precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little, meaning that we've got to gain all of the knowledge. And the scriptures also teach that in addition to your faith, you have to add knowledge. And so I really want you to come to this with that open mind, understanding that there are pieces of knowledge that you might need to add to your professionalism. And you do get judged because people judge things in these categories. They judge your attitude. What type of attitude do you come to work with? And for those who missed the masterclass that I did a few weeks ago on mindset towards work, I would encourage you to go watch that because that was a deep dive into the mindset that we actually need to carry as it relates to work. So your attitude is important, your demeanor. One of the best pieces of career advice that I ever received was one of my mentors who told me I needed to fix my face. She said that, yeah, while you
Octavio S. Olimpio has joined the meeting.
She told me I needed to fix my face and that I always look too serious. I always look like I'm thinking about
Marion Yade to me, sis. PLS the AI keeps announcing attendees joining and exiting. How can we switch off these interruptions? Thanks. Barbara Maashianda has joined the meeting.
All right, for those of you asking how to turn that off, I don't know. So don't type in the chat box because this automated virtual thing is just reading everything out. So please, apologies for that. I know it's going to perhaps disrupt the quality of the recording, but I encourage you to just bear with me by not chatting in the chat box. It's only announcing people who are joining the meeting, at least for now. All right, so people judge your professionalism by your attitude and by your demeanor. One of the best pieces of advice that I received about my demeanor was one of my mentors who told me that, Yawa, you really have to fix your face. She explained that most of the time, even if I wasn't angry or upset, I looked so serious. And it's true because I'm a very cerebral person. I read and think a lot. And so sometimes, without even knowing, I'm just kind of processing the information in my head. And so I don't need to talk to anybody. I'm just quiet for a long time. And she said, that's fine when I'm alone. But when I'm around people, I have to learn to engage. I have to learn how to, change my facial expressions so that I look inviting and look like someone who can be approached and someone who is able to, be receptive. And so sometimes our demeanor puts people off and it repels people. And so you might notice when I'm doing my presentations, I try to smile, I try to use my hand gestures, because these are the things that help you portray a demeanor that is a little more inviting, right? So your professionalism is not just what you do. Maybe you're very good at the actual skill that you were hired for in your work, but you have to add to that these graces, and it starts with your attitude and your demeanor. You also need to fix your communication. You know, the way you speak, the way you communicate both verbally and non-verbally matters. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about that more as I go into today's presentation. Your image, how do you appear? How do you dress? What are the colors that you put on? What kind of clothes do you wear? What are you dressing appropriately for your type of work? You know, oftentimes, in fact, there's a very popular saying, if you walk like the boss, you talk like the boss, and you dress like the boss, eventually you will be the boss. And that's not entirely true. It's very oversimplified, but the reasoning remains true, which is that you want to, in your profession, reflect the dress code, the style of communication, the demeanor of those who are in the topmost leadership. And that's one strategy that I really want to encourage you to adopt. Your image matters. It's not just what's in your head, but it's also how you appear. And, you know, I was telling a friend of mine a few weeks ago, we were at this event, and I said, you know, I'm getting a lot of attention now, and I'm getting a lot of exposure and all of that, but I'm saying the same things I used to say, right? But it's made a world of difference for me to have worked with an image consultant to hone my image. It made a world of difference for me to work with a speech coach to hone my communication. It's also made a world of difference for me to, you know, submit myself to the leadership of mentors and coaches who have helped me improve on how I present myself so that people can readily pay attention to what I have to share with the world. So I hope that gives you clarity about the fact that you can be technically competent, you might be knowledgeable and say the right things, but there are different standards by which people judge your professionalism. And it matters, and that you've got to be aware of it, right? Another thing is your competence. You see, competence isn't number one. The assumption is that everyone in a workplace is competent. You might be in ministry. Everyone can preach. Everyone reads their Bible. Everyone can quote a scripture. What makes you stand out? Maybe you're a business owner. Many people are in that industry. What makes your business stand out? You know, when I ask my clients for my consulting business, you know, why they decided to hire me, what is it that made them want to work with me? Many of times they'll tell me, oh, it's the way you present. Your communication is clear, direct, to the point. You thought ahead about what we would ask you. So by the time you're done, we have no questions. We know that you know your thing because you've anticipated all of our needs. Sometimes the client will say, we just love how you interact with our clients. People who coach with you or people who train with you say they had a good experience. So it's referral. So I have been able to build a business that way and been successful when I was working for other people this way. So all of this stuff matters. Your professionalism is judged. And part of how you understand how you're being judged is by asking questions. You know, one of the things I love about Jesus in scripture, he asked his disciples a question. He said, who do men say that I am? And I think that's a great example for us. You can ask people in your networks, what is your perception of me? Who do people say that I am? So that people can give you the needed feedback that you need in order to transform the way you come across. So if it wasn't for my mentor who told me that, Yawa, you've got to fix your face, maybe I would be repelling people who should be in my circle. I might be repelling people who should be clients of mine. I might be repelling people who should be friends and collaborators, right? So who knows what you could become if you paid attention to the rules that govern professionalism. It's also your behavior. Some of us have different behaviors that we've picked up from different sources. And sometimes the source is our culture. Sometimes we were conditioned to behave this way because our parents behaved this way, or the people we admire the most behave that way. And I really, really want to encourage you to adopt professional behaviors, especially when you are in relationship with people in a work setting. So maybe you're working with people in a ministry, or working with people in a company, or working with people who report to you as the boss in a business that you run. You always want to come across more on the side of professional instead of familiar. And that's an important distinction I think everyone needs to make, because here is what I have noticed. Many of the times we break the rules of professional behavior by becoming familiar too quickly. You meet someone for the first time, and then all of a sudden you're calling them dear or honey, or who's your dear? Who's your honey? Right? So instead of sir or madame, the rules of professional etiquette dictate a certain level of deferential treatment of people. And sometimes we lose it. And I see that sometimes we lose it in marriage or in friendship. Instead of saying, talking to people respectfully, we call each other by names and we taunt each other, and we stop obeying the rules that help us to have good relationships with people. So one of the things that I really want you to note is that, when we're talking about professionalism in the workplace, it really is about maturity and responsibility in how you deal with people and how you do your tasks. Work really is about doing the thing that you were hired to do and nothing else. And so everything else is extra. And sometimes we lose our ability to be effective in the workplace because we don't show enthusiasm for the work that we're doing. We are dull. It's when people ask us to do something, we sigh, okay. And we talk in a tone that is uninspiring. And so before you know it, people start trying to avoid you. People start trying to get away from you because misery or miserable people or people who are uninspiring or unenthusiastic are like a repellent. If people can avoid you, they will. So part of how you demonstrate professionalism in the world of work is by showing that maturity, showing passion for your work. Hi, okay, how can I help you? Yes, showing a positive mental attitude so that you are delivering results, but you're doing so in a way that makes people feel like they want to deal with you, okay? Another tenet of professionalism in the workplace is feedback. A lot of us don't give feedback on what we're doing. Maybe you're working as part of a team, and unless you are asked what you are working on, nobody knows. Unless you're asked, you don't give an update on where things are. And oftentimes, this is one thing that I've noticed with some of the companies that I've worked with. Many who come through my standout leadership training, one of the key things that they're guilty of is not being responsive or giving feedback. Someone has written you an email, never to be heard from within a distinct period. So it's simple things like acknowledging receipt of the email. Thank you for your email. I should be able to get back to you by Thursday. Thank you very much. Just an acknowledgement sets you apart from everybody else. When someone calls you, I thank you for your note. It'll take me a few minutes to get back to you. If it's okay, can we schedule some time to discuss this Monday at this time? Many of us don't really govern our time individually, so therefore we are unable to do that when we are part of a team. And that's why I started off by telling you that people are judging you. Maybe they will let you slide, but if they can find a different option to work with because you are not being professional, they will. So feedback is another way you demonstrate professionalism. Now, one other way is the attitude, which I've already talked about, but it's respect, respect for other people and their time. And I know that many of us have grown up in different cultures that have different relationships to time. So for example, there's what we call polychronic time and monochronic time. And cultures that are tropical in nature seem to run on polychronic time. So it's not exact. I'll see you in the afternoon, which could mean between 12 or 4. they not very exact. Whereas monochronic cultures are very exact, and those are more temperate countries. 12 o'clock means 12 o'clock. If the meeting starts at 12, it's actually 12 o'clock. And I see a lot of tension that happens when someone who has a polychronic culture starts working for a company that operates on monochronic time. And that's why I really want you to understand that professionalism, this note about becoming someone who is a polished professional, means that you have to renegotiate your relationship with time. Being more monochronic in your relationship to time helps you to step out and stand out from the crowd. So, for example, I've learned to just govern my day with a schedule. And if someone reaches out to me outside of that schedule, I try to handle all of those disruptions by carving out time so that I can be responsive to my clients. I can start the meetings when they're supposed to start. So, for example, tonight's meeting starting at 5, I tuned in or logged in at 5 minutes till 5 to test the microphone, to get in position, to load my slide deck so that I could start exactly at 5. And so, being exact in your relationship to time is a key way that you can stand out as a professional. Being friendly and being a team player, you cannot overlook the importance of friendliness and kindness in the workplace. And sometimes we lose it because we're working with people that maybe we actually disapprove of their lifestyle. Some of us take a sense of self-righteousness into the workplace. Work isn't church. And we shouldn't expect a standard of holiness from people that we work with. We should be friendly and kind to everybody, in spite of whether we like the way they live or we don't, whether they offended us or they didn't. Everyone deserves respect. And that's the mindset that those who win at work adopt. Because oftentimes, you might have your cultural biases, religious biases. Why is this person a womanizer? Why does that person doing this or they did that? You might have bought into the office gossip. And so you formed a certain mindset towards someone who could be the key to your breakthrough. And it's especially true when you start forming negative impressions about your superiors. And I really encourage anyone that I coach or mentor, don't harbor resentment towards leaders. I believe it's a violation of spiritual law because the Bible teaches us that we need to pray for those that are in leadership over us. And there's no authority that is placed over us that wasn't placed there by God. So sometimes you become stagnant and stuck at work simply because, in my opinion at least, you're violating the law about respect, especially respect for seniors or respect for those that are placed in authority over you. And I know what it's like to gossip about the boss. I used to do that. I used to join my coworkers in gossiping and, oh, this company, they should have did this or should have done that. Exactly. And it may sound sweet because misery loves company, but it's actually a violation of this natural order, this divine law that I think makes people stagnant. So you can't be blessed and advance in a place that you're actively bad mouthing. So if you're someone who is in a work environment where things aren't going great, if you're not prepared to talk to the person who can change it, don't talk about it at all. That's my policy. And I hope that that helps. Also, adopt the attitude of a problem solver. Some of us like to pontificate about the problem and talk about the problem and describe the problem, but professionalism is about being a problem solver, right? Some of us just don't have that gene. We can talk about it, we can say this needs changing, but part of how you stand out in the world of work is by being the problem solver. So I really want to encourage you to adopt that as your posture. Don't allow yourself to get sucked into woe is me or catastrophizing. Everything is a catastrophe. Hey, this has happened, or oh, that has happened. Just how do we solve it? With your problem and solution oriented, you already set yourself apart from the pack. And then lastly, show a willingness to learn. In this fast paced, rapidly changing world, those that win at work are those that are growth minded. You've got to have a growth mindset. You have to be willing to learn new things, learn how to adapt, learn how to use new skills. In fact, this past week, I've been learning new skills in AI, learning how to take some of my content and to split it up into digestible chunks. And I am so enriched by learning some of these tools because things that I thought would take so long are being shrunk into a shorter period of time, meaning that I can just focus on doing the thing that I love. I'm a leader developer, I'm a teacher, I'm a trainer, I'm a consultant, and I can do more strategic work because I am now being so growth oriented around learning the new skills and new tools to make my work easier. So similarly, if you will set yourself apart and stand out from the crowd in terms of your profession at work, you've got to be someone who's willing to learn new things. And sometimes how you learn new things is by volunteering. You learn new things by saying, okay, you need someone to volunteer. I will try, I will do it. Because part of how you develop the skill in something is by repetition. And some of us don't want to try our hands at anything unless we are sure that we will win. And that really isn't the best mindset if you're trying to stand out as a professional. It's your willingness to try and fail and try again, take the learning and integrate that into what you do next. And many companies are looking for people and they're getting lots of CVs and resumes, but they said they're looking for people who have this type of mindset. I'm finding now, because many companies ask me to sit on their interview panels or assess candidates, I'm finding that there's a strong appetite not for candidates who know specific things, but strong appetite for candidates who have great people skills, who have a great or demonstrate an ability and a willingness to learn, who are well-rounded individuals. So in many of these interviews, they're asking questions about what is your hobby? Tell us what you do in your free time. Sometimes they'll take these candidates to lunch and they'll sit them in front of food and see how they interact with food, just to get a sense of how they might represent the company in public. You know, there are a lot of HR books and trainings that will say that you can learn everything you can need to know about a person by just watching how they eat. And so sometimes we don't realize that our lack of etiquette and decorum are actually eroding from our ability to advance in the world of work. When I joined a company several years ago, early in my career, I was probably, in my late 20s at the time. And I began to, work at that company. There were people in the company who had been there for several years before they were older than me. And before I knew it, my boss, the owner of the company, wanted me to travel with her, wanted me to be in her most important meetings because she saw that I stood out from the crowd because I had a certain communication style, a style of presentation, and a decorum and an etiquette that made her want me in the space instead of those who had been there before. Now, you might be watching or listening to me and thinking, I'm praying against people in the office who I think have bewitched my boss, but maybe all they do that you don't do is that they've got these skills of polished professionalism. So being able to do these things really, really helps you to stand out. When it comes to attitude and demeanor, I talked about things like the smile already. Your ability to have good posture is important. Your eye contact, how you greet people, and your enthusiasm, it matters. And
Amina Quarantin has joined the meeting.
I teach a class called Outclass the Competition.
Aqua has joined the meeting.
And in that class, I talk about these important ways and strategies. We look at videos of what good posture looks at. We look at videos of what a good handshake is, because it's one thing telling you, but it's another thing showing you. So if you're interested in the Outclass the Competition class, we can talk about that at the end, because it's a big piece of the learning that I think a lot of people really need to get honed in on so that we can become more polished in our professionalism and be able to portray ourselves as polished professionals wherever it is we go. The thing about professionalism. And the big piece in the work that I've done with leaders over the years is communications and image. I work with leaders to
Betty's iPhone has joined the meeting.
I work with different leaders to hone their public speaking skills as well as their image. And like I said, I got certified by the Protocol School of Washington. So I'm using their material, which is world class, to teach. It's not things that I think, it's things that have been established and taught for years to diplomats and heads of state and people who are in senior leadership in Fortune 500 companies. So there are some laid down protocols as well
Rosie has joined the meeting.
as different etiquettes that we have to be mindful of if we're going to get our communication and our image right. And so one of the key areas I want to touch on in this presentation is the importance of handling disagreements and conflict with the utmost care. When you're working with people or in an organization, there is undoubtedly going to be conflict because people are imperfect, right? And when you're working in an environment, part of how you demonstrate your professionalism is in the way you handle disagreement or conflict. So some of us who blow off our top, we get angry, we pump our fist on the table, we default into vengeance instead of collaborative conversation. I really want to encourage you that if you can, learn more about assertiveness and learn more about your communication to hone it, especially when you're angry, it will be helpful. Many years ago, my father taught us as his kids that if you speak when you are angry, you will make the best speech that you will ever regret. And that has always stayed with me. But as I've matured and I've taken different communications classes and I've worked with different communications coaches, I've realized that it's not that we should never be angry, but we've got to implement certain strategies in order to not take the anger into the conversation, which is why I teach something called respectful assertiveness, because there is a way to be direct and confidently share what it is that you are upset about without coming across in a way that is offensive. And some of us just need to learn that in order to come across as more professional. Under image, it's really about how are you appearing, paying extra attention to what you wear, how you smell, how you are groomed is critical. And most workplaces have a dress code and a style. I would encourage you to understand what that is and dress that way. One point that I would make about this is that much of the rules of professionalism are informed by the rules of royalty. It's informed by royalty more than it is celebrity. And some of us have blurred the lines between what is work appropriate and what is inappropriate, right? So work clothes shouldn't be tight and form fitting. So those who wear the muscle shirts with all the biceps popping out or very low cut dresses with all the boobs popping out, that is inappropriate for work. So if you're trying to create a professional image, it's about conservatism more than it is about flash. And for women, for example, stilettos, any shoes higher than 4 inches is really inappropriate for the workplace. Sparkle, things that sparkle weren't made for the world of work. They were made for social environments. And so again, we go deep in this in the outclass the competition class. And I've got a 3-part course on polished professionalism that you can sign up for towards the end. I'll tell you about that if that's of interest. But I'm pulling out the key points here that your communications and your image are so critical when it comes to your professionalism. So it's not just what you wear, but it's also the attitude. It's how do you talk to people, especially, and it's not even just those that are senior to you, but how do you treat people beneath you, quote unquote, people who don't have a much authority as you do. It matters. So some of the unprofessional behaviors that I really want to encourage you against are things like arguing in front of customers or clients or family
50
members.
Sunqua Mills has joined the meeting.
You know,
Rachel Aberantwi has joined the meeting.
Oftentimes we forget that we're always on display. We're always being watched. We're always being observed, and people are always making observations and judgments about us. And so things like, off-color jokes, sexual jokes, things that you think are funny but aren't appropriate for the workplace. And like I said, many of us have become so familiar because we work with these people all the time. We forget that we're actually colleagues and not friends. And this is a mistake that I see a lot of women make. We think that everyone at work is my friend. And so when I have conflict with someone at work, it just destabilizes me because I've assumed more into the work relationship than perhaps I should have. So I know we like to use the word we're a family in this office, we get along, and quite frankly, getting along with people you work with is to be desired, but that really isn't the purpose of work. The purpose of work is to deliver on whatever you were hired to do.
Jenny B has joined the meeting.
And sometimes we're unable to move up because we want the friendship more than we want effectiveness. So many women leaders that I have coached,
Paige has left the meeting. Paige has joined the meeting.
many women leaders that I've coached over the years have the issue of not being able to garner the respect for their role because they can't call people out when they do things that are wrong. You might be taking on more responsibility than you should just because you don't have the confidence to call people out. Sometimes the unprofessional behavior is
NAA Ailey has left the meeting.
blowing up in anger, being angry at something and having a verbal outburst, maybe insulting someone in front of others, or threats of violence. These are the things that I wanted to call out as very, very unprofessional behavior. So when it comes to communications, again, I really want to emphasize again the importance of assertiveness. And for me, assertiveness is being able to communicate your thoughts and feelings and needs.
Doris has left the meeting.
Being able to tell people when they've offended you in a way that is
Vita Azitaku has joined the meeting.
In a-
Doris has joined the meeting.
in a way that is non-offensive and allows you to establish the right type of boundaries and to build a healthy relationship. Because, in order to thrive at work and even in your personal life, you really have to adopt these tools that enable you to say
Victoria Kumako has left the
difficult
meeting.
things. You need to have the ability to say difficult things in a manner that enables you to get feedback and have change. So what you do not confront never changes. And that's why assertiveness is important. And if you don't establish the right boundaries, sometimes you and your personal effectiveness becomes questioned. You are no longer personally effective because you are not asserting your voice to ask for something to change. And you might recall that a few weeks ago in my series Prepare for Prominence, we talked about the importance of asserting yourself. So you might want to rewatch that video to emphasize the importance of assertiveness to your professional development, but also to your personal life. So when it comes to communication at work, I really want you to think about communicating from the posture of support and encouragement. Think about what you're about to say. Is it supportive? Is it encouraging? And I like to think about it from the lens of this Bible scripture, which says that let your speech be seasoned with salt, and let no corrupt communication come out of your mouth except that which will give grace to the hearer. So is what I'm about to say something that will give grace to the
NAA
hearer?
actually has left the meeting.
If it won't give grace to the person who's going to hear it, then maybe I shouldn't be saying it, right? So make sure all the words that come out of your mouth are supportive and encouraging where possible. And if you have something difficult to say it only to the person who needs to hear it, right? Some of us have an attitude or a posture or a habit of calling people out in front of others, which in addition to the offense, it brings shame. And sometimes the relationships with people that we need are irreparably damaged because we shamed them. Shame is one of those emotions that people have very deep trauma over. So sometimes when I think about things that have hurt me the most, it was usually something tied to shame. So make sure that your communication is supportive and encouraging. And then lastly, make sure that you're participating in learning communities. I often encourage those that I mentor or coach join a community, join a group of people. So for example, if you're trying to improve your public speaking skills,
NAA Atsui has joined the meeting.
I often-
Octavio S. Olimpio has left the meeting.
I often tell people who are trying to improve their communication skills to join Toastmasters International. It's an international public speaking organization. They have chapters in different countries. And so it's a conducive environment where like-minded people gather, because part of the learning that will happen in your life will happen individually, but also in community. And so don't forsake assembling together with people that are like-minded. And that's also scriptural. The Bible says, do not forsake the assembling of yourselves together. And that was in the context of church, but I think that that extends also into our professional lives. Does your organization or your industry, is there an industry association that you should be a member of? I know there's an industry association for HR professionals. There's an industry association for coaches in Ghana. There's a, whatever it is, there's probably a gathering of people who are like-minded. Part of how you learn is by joining them. So in your communication, the goal should be to sound educated and sound like someone who knows what they're talking about. And that's
Marion has left the meeting.
I encourage everyone who's serious.
Betty Reginald has joined the meeting.
That's why I tell everyone who's serious about their professional development.
Gabriel Aka has left the meeting.
To
Gabriel Aka has joined the meeting. Gabriel Aka has left the meeting.
I encourage everyone who is serious about their professional development to invest in public speaking training, because the world judges you by what you find words for. And whether you're front facing or back office, learning how to
Rajiel Aberantwi has left the meeting.
Learning how to communicate matters, right? And the final key I want to give you is you have to polish your professionalism.
Aqua has left the meeting. Marion has joined the meeting.
I've been on a nearly 20.
Rajiel Aberantwi has joined the meeting.
I will have to figure out how to make that stop. I've been on a 20-year journey on polishing my professionalism. And the more I invest in training myself, I've worked with speech coaches, I've worked, got the certification from Protocol School of Washington, harnessed my etiquette and protocol knowledge, I've spent thousands of dollars over the years just investing in myself. And I really want to encourage you to do the same. If God is telling you that you're meant for a height that seems out of your reach,
NAA Atsui has left the meeting.
I would encourage you to start understanding what are the things I need to know, and start looking for courses, looking for coaches, looking for people that can help you do that, right? And I really want to talk about the importance of protocol etiquette and that intelligence, because it positions you to distinguish yourself.
Rajiel Aberantwi has left the meeting.
To develop and maintain relationships. It helps you to project a positive image and to build teamwork and project confidence and authority.
Rajiel Aberantwi has joined the meeting.
So this ends the formal
Marjorie Kwanzaa has joined the meeting.
This ends the formal part of my presentation tonight. I'm going to stop the recording. If anybody wants more information about any of the courses that I talked about or the opportunities for training that I lead, you can email me at this address. But I do want to open up the floor to questions, so that if there are any specific questions, I can answer them now.